Hello and welcome to a Christmas edition of Baz and Ori. I'm going to read to you the story of the Nativity today, but I'm going to do it in my native tongue, Black Country. I hope you enjoy it. There was this girl called Mary, and her lived in a place called Nazareth. One day, her mum went out and her was left to do the housework. All of a sudden, the room went all bright, and when I turned around, I saw somebody standing by the window. I wore half frit and nearly fell off a chair. "Whom you were asked? Your day off, give me a turn." "Don't be scared," answered the bloke. "Oh, how hurt you?" "My name's Gabriel, and I'm an angel." "You I am, ya?" said Mary. "I am," he replied, "and I've come to tell you something." "What?" said Mary, because I was thinking what a carry-on this was. "I'm going to have a baby," said the angel. That shook her, and I looked at him and said, "Oh, don't be daft. I ain't married." "That don't make no difference," he answered. "If God says you'll have a baby, you'll have a baby, and that's it. You've got to call him Jesus." Mary was still a bit shook, so the angel said, "And I'll tell you something else. You ain't the only one that's going to have a baby. Your cousin Elizabeth's going to have one and all, and her's an old woman." "Well, if you say so, I suppose that's it," said Mary. "I can't do anything about it, but my chap will half be surprised." When he'd gone, Mary sat for a bit and thought about it. Then I made up her mind to go and see Elizabeth. So I had a swill and went off to Judah. When I got there, Elizabeth was waiting at the gate, and when I saw Mary, I said, "I ain't half glad to see you, but fancy you coming in your state that you're in." Mary answered, "An angel come and said me, and I'm going to have a baby in December." They went into the house, and Elizabeth made a cup of tea. I told Mary that her old man, Zacharias, didn't believe her when I told him about the baby, and he was speechless. "He can't speak a word now," I said. The chap what Mary was engaged to was called Joseph. When Mary told him about the baby he was having, he didn't know what to think. He said, "Your mum will half kick up a chowrow as bound to blame me, and they will half rattle down our street. It ain't good enough." And he wrote, he did get his hair off, and when he went to bed that night, an angel come to him in a dream. "Don't get mad at Mary about the baby," he told him. "It's God's son as having, and his name's Jesus. Somebody's got to have him, or he won't get born, and your Mary was picked. So just go marry her, me mate. There ain't nothing to worry about." Soon after they was married, Joseph come in and told Mary, "I've had a letter from the taxman, and that Caesar of Anne says we've got to go to where we was born to be taxed, so we've got to traipse all the way to Bethlehem next week." Well, Mary cut some sandwiches and packed a few cakes and apples, then I made a bottle of tea. They have their missus then. And when they'd had a decent breakfast, Joseph got the donkey out, put Mary on it, and away they went. "Cheer up, our kid, it ain't far now," Joseph told her. "You can see the lamps in Bethlehem down the road. We'll soon have a rest. I sure be sorry neither. I keep getting bricks and sand in me sandals." When they got into town, Joseph knocked on the door of an inn and asked for a double room. The bloke what answered said, "I can't help you. There's that many of them in here, I'm having to sleep in the passage." The next one was like it at all, but Joseph said to the chap, "Hey, there anywhere we can go? Me missus is out there on a donkey and is going to have a baby soon." The chap scratched his head. Then he had an idea. He said, "Hey, we cleaned the stable out after tea, so it ain't mucky. If I shift a couple of horses and a camel, you could keep down there." Joseph didn't even bother to ask Mary. He said, "We'll take it straight off." In the night, Mary woke Joseph up and said, "The baby's here." So Jesus was born, and they wrapped him tight and put him in the manger what the horses set out on. Mary and Joseph were half proud. The innkeeper come with his missus and bought Mary some milk. It was hot. They thought Jesus was a Boston little lad, and the innkeeper said to Joseph, "You'd better come in and have a drink to wet his head." So he did. The innkeeper's wife told them all, "There's a woman out there that's just had a baby," I said, "and if only your lot would kick up a racket, you might." Up in the hills there were some shepherds looking after the sheep. It was cold, so they were sitting by a fire, letting their dogs do the work while they had something to eat and had a smoke. Suddenly the sky lit up like bonfire night, and an angel come. They don't know out about angels, and they was that fit they all fell on the ground. "Yo, my silly lot," said the angel, "I sure hurt you. I got a message for you. There's a baby been born in Bethlehem. His name is Jesus, and he's God's son. Go and have a look at him. He's in a stable, lying in a manger." The shepherds come down to the hill, into Bethlehem, and they kept on about the angels. One said, "Fancy angels coming to us, we ain't nobody. It's as if we're important." Another agreed and said, "It wore half a good tune what they sung, but I can't remember the words, can you?" "Something about glory and God in the highest," answered his mate. "We'll get back and we'll try and write it down between us." Well, they must have, or we wouldn't know it. And he rode up. They come to the town. One of them said, "It's all right, him saying we'll find the baby in a stable, but them all over the place. We'll be looking for wicks." His friend snapped at him. "Why don't you shut up moaning? Us two will look this side and your pair look the other." Another said, "It ain't much use looking in stables, what 'em's shut, and if there's a new baby, there'll be a light on." Then they heard their mates whistle and found them outside a stable built in a cave. "We're here." One knocked on the door and Mary called, "Come in." They took off their hats and went on tiptoe. The chief shepherd said, "How do, missus? An angel told us to come and see your baby." Mary smiled and beckoned him in. Joseph said, "Here he is. Come and look, but mind you don't breathe on his face." The shepherds knelt down around the manger and looked. "Ain't he tiny?" said the youngest. "Ain't he got little ons?" "Course he's tiny, you soft aper," said the leader. "He's new, ain't he?" "I know that," said the young un, "but you can't imagine God being little, can you?" Mary smiled and said, "I'll spin some wool and knit him a jumper, and his daddy'll play the flute to make him good to sleep." The shepherds turned to go and little Jesus smiled. The leader said after it was wind and all babies did it, but he wore as sure as he was heading out. While all this was a-going on, 3 wise kings in a country far away was looking at stars. Suddenly one of them put down his telescope and called, "Come here, yo lot, I've found a star, what they're for, and it ain't half a big un." "You're right, mate," they said, and they looked. "I bet that's the one that tells us a new king's born." They checked up, and it was. One day they come to Jerusalem and went up to the palace and knocked on the door. A sentry opened it and they asked, "Is the king in?" The sentry said, "Half a more, go and check." The king's name was Herod and he was in. "There was 3 kings to see you," the soldier told him. "Oh, what?" said Herod. "Where?" He had a fit when the soldier told him outside. "You can't leave kings standing on the step," he said. "Get 'em in." So they all come in and Herod said how nice it was to see him and what could he do for him. They said they was looking for a new king and wondered if he was there. Herod said, "He ain't here, but when you've found him, drop in on the way back so I can go and look myself." They said, "Righto," and off they went. When they'd gone, Herod said to himself, "There's only room for one king here, and I'm it. When I know where the new one is, I'll have him killed." The star stopped over the house where Jesus was, and the kings they worried because it wore a palace. They went in and knelt down by Jesus and gave him gold, frankincense and myrrh. Mary looked at the presents and said, "Thank you, I'm smashing, but I'll keep them until he's a bit bigger if you don't mind." The kings took off their crowns and bowed. Then they said, "Ta-ra a bit," and went all the way back home. But they did go past Herod's palace because an angel told them what an awful bloke he was and how he wanted to kill little Jesus. The end.